But first, we need to talk about, obviously, the game last night. Arizona just did not look, and how do I put this? Arizona did not look good. We're going to get to all of that. Let's talk about it, though, on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everyone. And as always, thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we're going to talk Arizona, Washington, and we're also going to talk some Arizona football as well, because again, there is a new opening. But let's talk about it first, Arizona, Washington. The game that you saw last night, that just shouldn't happen for Arizona. Washington is not a good team. As a matter of fact, they're one of the worst teams in the conference. And as we talked about, there's probably one player on Washington who would actually play real minutes at Arizona, and Keon Brooks. And quite frankly, again, Arizona just did not look good. This is a little bit, and again, this all needs to be prefaced by saying that Arizona is one of the five best, or ranked number 5 in the country. But it does need to be prefaced, though, by also saying that there are games at home where they just don't look good. And I think that's what's frustrating if you're Arizona, because especially when you're at home. And this happened against Cal, this happened against Washington as well. Where Arizona just didn't look interested and playing to the level of their competition. And I think that's where people should be a little bit frustrated, because you can control the level at which you play at. You can control the level at which you the effort in which you give. But Arizona in this game, certainly it did not feel like they gave that kind of effort. And I think that's what's kind of frustrating for Arizona fans. That being said, you also saw too what makes this team so dangerous. When they're able to hit you with runs, they're able to hit you with plays. The transition where they finish. The Kirk Crease again, big shots, finishing at the rim, Azuolas Tubelis. Those are all things that you can't take away from Arizona, and it's going to make them dangerous no matter who they play. But as we've talked about before, there are times when it looks like Arizona's kind of sleepwalking, and I think that's what's frustrating for Wildcats fans, because you never like seeing a team play up or play down to their level of competition. And that's what's happened with Arizona against some really against some teams that they should be able to just handle. Again, Washington's not a good team. Arizona was able to get it to them there in the second half, but at the same time, you don't like seeing that. So let's talk about some of the players. Courtney Ramey is a guy who he's good. Don't get me wrong. Very happy that Courtney Ramey is on this team, but I was expecting a little bit more out of him this year. I thought that he would be a little bit better defensively. I thought he would be a little bit better defensively, and I thought he would be able to get you a little bit more of a defensive presence. You haven't really seen that, and I think that's a little frustrating right there. And that I think you would hope that you could see it, but again, as Doug Gottlieb has said many, many, many times, he has said that there are no pros in the transfer portal, and that's just kind of the way it is. There are no pros in the transfer portal, so anybody expecting to get pros is probably going to be a little bit disappointed in what they're going to get, because again, pros don't show up in the transfer portal. That's a fair point. But, again, I think people thought they could maybe get a little bit more out of Ramey, but it is what it is. He's still a good player, still lucky to have him. Then Pelle Larsson, for whatever reason, don't know what exactly it is, but Pelle can't shoot. As a freshman, Pelle was a good shooter. He was worse as a sophomore, and it's been tough to watch at times these last couple of years. But he can still do some other pretty good things out there, and I think that's at least something that's good about what Arizona's got. Now, Umar Ballo, Azuolas Tubelis, these are the guys that you can count on game in and game out, no matter what happens. These guys are there, and even when they don't play well, they're still kind of in the mix where they get they're still kind of in the mix where, you finish with a game where you got 35 points, 20 rebounds, whatever the case may be. And that's something that I think that a lot of people take for granted. And I think, and it is. It's something that's easy to take for granted. But those two up front, they are your trump cards for the majority of this, or, they're going to be your trump cards for the entire season. That's just going to be the way that it is. And that's a good thing, obviously. Now, at some of the other positions, it's a little bit more interesting because, it's kind of hit or miss. On the perimeter, you definitely lack a little bit of offensive explosion. Again, Kirk Kriisa has definitely been better this year, and I think everybody should be happy with what they've seen. But there hasn't really been that guy that's emerged on the perimeter that can be that 15, 16 point per game guy. That just hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it does at some point, but right now it just hasn't happened. So I think that, with Arizona, it's just a little bit frustrating. Now, let's talk about Kylan Boswell. Kylan Boswell had one of maybe his best game of his career. He played incredibly well, and not only did he show some next level vision, he also showed some. Not only did he show some next level vision, he showed that he could really kind of run a team right there. And I think that's what's exciting about what Kylan Boswell has been able to bring. And if you're Tommy Lloyd, that's something as well that you're happy about. Now, I think with Boswell, though, a lot of it too is just getting him ready for next year. Getting him ready for next year, because again, he is a different player than what Arizona has on this roster. He's more athletically dynamic than Kirk Kriisa, and not only is he a little bit more athletically dynamic, he can do a little bit. He can just do a little bit more out there. I think with this squad, you need somebody that can kind of push the pace and keep people off balance there a little bit. And Arizona has done that. Now, Arizona's done a very good job though of this throughout the year. And I think that Tommy Lloyd has pressed all the right buttons. Tommy Lloyd has pressed all the right buttons, and not only has he pressed all the right buttons, he's found out the best way to get these guys in the position that they need to succeed, and that's something that great coaches do. And Tommy Lloyd is a great coach. And not only is Tommy Lloyd a great coach, he's a guy that he knows how to get the best out of his players, and he's certainly shown that he can get the best out of his players. So again, got to give him a tip of the cap, because this wasn't an easy game. And these are games too in the past that these are games that in the past Arizona might have lost, to be quite frank with you, because, again, didn't play well. Washington was locked in. Washington was ready to go in this game, and they shot incredibly well. And not only did they shoot incredibly well, they came with it, and they've got some big dudes up front who pretty good. So again, it was a game performance by Washington, but Arizona came out. Arizona won. Arizona won, and a win is a win is a win. You move on now. You're going to be looking 15-1, 16-1, and it's all kind of downhill from there. But hopefully this eliminates some of the slow starts that Arizona has been dealing with. Hopefully this is what Tommy Lloyd needed to be able to tell his guys, hey, dudes, this we can't be playing like this. As a matter of fact, we've got to be able, we've got a bullseye on our back, and we've got to be able to play better games than what we've been playing. And right now, Arizona's just got to be able to do that. And they haven't been able to do that to this point. But to Arizona's credit, they've also, and this is something that you can't really minimize, they've also played very well against good teams. And, that's something that you either have or you don't, whether that was against Tennessee, whether that was against Indiana. Arizona generally plays pretty well against good teams, and that's what they've been able to do to this point. So, as all is still good with Arizona basketball because you're ranked in the top 5 in the nations, but there are certainly some warning signs here. But right now, we're going to take a win. And a win is a win is a win is a win is a win. All right, now let me tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is another thing that is also a win for everybody. You look at the strongest people out there, and for a fact that they probably take Built Bar. The reason that everybody likes Built Bar is because it's good. How many times have you worked out, or you've left the gym and you're like, oh man, I got to go have a protein shake, and it's just disgusting. You don't want to have that protein shake. You don't want to have anything to do with that. You don't want to have anything to do with that, and that's where Built Bar is different, because Built Bar is something that you can embrace. Everybody loves a Built Bar. So again, check it out, Built Bar. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit of Arizona football here. Arizona football is going to have a new defensive, it's going to have a new cornerbacks coach. And DeWayne Walker is out. Don't know exactly what happened. The timing was a little bit odd there. Didn't really see that one. But I think there are some very good options there if you're Arizona and who you want to go with. And I would go with Duane Akina. Duane Akina has been one of the handful of best defensive back coaches in the country for a long time. And he did that at Arizona. He coached probably the 2 best defensive backs in school history, and Chuck Cecil and Chris McAllister. And, that's something that's impressive. But he also took it to Texas as well, where he coached a lot of guys, your Aaron Rosses, your Michael Huffs. This to me is a no-brainer situation. You bring him in to coach your defensive backs. And I think if you're Arizona, there would be a no-brainer fit. I'm a big fan of Duane Akina. I like what Duane Akina brings to the table, and I think a lot of people should be excited about the possibility of him coming back here. Now, you might say, well, Mike, where's Duane Akina been? I can tell you, Duane Akina has been at Stanford. And obviously, that David Shaw is out at Stanford, so that means that there's going to be some openings there. So, again, I would love to see Duane Akina end up at Arizona. The one thing, too, that I feel comfortable in saying is that Jedd Fisch gets it. Jedd Fisch knows the importance of coaching and recruiting on this staff, and he's shown that time and time and time again. And that's obviously a thing that's nice to have, because Jedd Fisch is fully invested in the U of A. We've had a lot of coaches here over the years where you're like, this guy really doesn't want to be here. he really doesn't want to be here, or, how long is he going to be here? There isn't really much of that. There's none of that with Jedd Fisch. You can tell that Jedd Fisch knows that this could be his first and only opportunity, and he's going to make sure that this works. And I think that's what's exciting. So I would bring in Duane Akina, because the defensive backs, let's be honest here, and this is no gripe towards DeWayne Walker, but the defensive backs have not been great in quite a while. Duane Akina is used to coaching great defensive backs, and that's where I think that he could really make a move. Now, there's other options out there as well. Keith Hayward, again, out of UNLV, a guy who is a dynamic recruiter, somebody that a lot of people are big fans of. He's a guy that you're probably going to see on the on those lists as well. But again, there's going to be a lot of options, because at Arizona, I think a lot of people know that this is a good spot. Arizona football is going places. This isn't Kevin Sumlin. This not only is this not Kevin Sumlin, this isn't this isn't Rich Rod, where it's 1 foot out the door, 1 foot in. It's a totally different spot where I think everybody is committed. So again, we'll talk more about the staff and the importance of getting this hire right in just a second. Let's take a quick break. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we're talking coaches now. We are talking not only we're talking coaches, we're talking who would be ideal fits on this Arizona staff at the defensive back position. And keep in mind, this is going to be an important hire right here, because Arizona has struggled defensively. I'm not really breaking any ground right there. And the defensive backs are young. You look across the board, there's a lot of talent there, but it's young talent, from Ephesians Prysock to Dekario Davis. Heck, even Traden Stukes. You're going to have some new guys coming in there as well. But it's a young group full of talent, but I think you need to have somebody that knows exactly what they're doing, and that's where I think Duane Akina would fit in very, very well. I also think next year's defensive backs are going to be significantly better, because I think there's going to be some addition by subtraction. Granted, you'd never want to lose a player like Christian Roland Wallace. Christian Roland Wallace has been one of the best probably the best defensive back for Arizona the last, 5-6 years. He's off to USC right now. But I think you watch him, though, and you watch him and you kind of say to yourself that, he's replaceable. He thinks that, I watch him and I'm like, okay, but I think these young guys have more talent than what he actually throws out there. So again, we'll find out. But I think Christian Young, the coaches always talked about him, but it seemed like Christian Young really, really struggled to get that part of the game down. And that's something that you don't really like to see that late in your career if you're Arizona. Now, let's talk about some of the other guys then. At that safety position, who these guys could be working with. Isaiah Taylor, Jason Taylor's son he's got some big time potential to him. And there's a reason that Jackson Turner, I don't want to say was run off, but he's, at the same time though, he's also been a player who, is going to Arizona has a great deal of love for, and they're going to try to get him in there. So again, Duane Akina, I think, is a home run hire. Need to make that one work, because again, to me, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. Now, everybody out there have a great weekend. Arizona, Washington State is coming up on Saturday. We'll be right back with you on Monday, breaking everything down. Hopefully Arizona smokes Washington State, because they should beat Washington State, because Washington State isn't very good, but we've also seen that as well. So on that note, everybody have a great rest of your have a great weekend. And as always, really appreciate you. And thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike.